Hello everyone and welcome back to ARI, our Arctic Research and Entertainment institution, or institute if you will. This is been in the shelf or in the drawer for a couple of weeks, simply to me having no time, but it is about time to go back. And as you can tell from the title or from the description or from the thumb, I don't really know how to do it exactly, you can win a Arctic DLC, because this series over here is focused on the Arctic DLC. It is kind of a little side series that I created, so if you want to check it out, the whole playlist is down below in the description, where I talk about the whole approach on making it a research station in the middle of the Arctic, because I felt like with the initial challenge of the huge ass habitat that, for example, the polar bears need, I wanted to really stress out the conservation factor in the game and the approach that the game goes, and kind of pay it some tribute and do something completely different than what has been done so far. And I believe it still is one of the first kind of research stations I've ever seen being done in the game. So yeah, I'm just quite happy how this turned out, and I'm also very happy that people seem to still like it. Not as much as other series. This is also why I'm going to end this one soon. However, a little bit in contrast to what I was saying in the in my live stream, this is not going to be the last episode. However, now you guys want to know how to win the DLC, I guess. I hope you listened until this point in time. I'm gonna tell you how to win it, and this time it's gonna be a bit different. Now I want you to give me your favorite or best or first or whatever, your conservation fact. I want to know everything about what you know about zoos do for conservation purpose. I think it's a great way to enlighten us all, to get a bit more knowledge about it. And I'm gonna pick the winner to win this DLC code by voting for, or like not voting, but like picking the most interesting or most surprising or the best the best one that happens to be in the comments. And yes, I know it's kind of a subjective one, but I think it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, randomness, or like picking a window random, is as much of a subjective or like a coincidental thing than it is with me picking the winner. I really hope that you guys are okay with it. So I would love to have a lot of conservation infos and stuff like that. I'm gonna put this in the first comment of this video as well and pin it so you guys know exactly what to do. But yeah, I cannot wait to see what you guys are telling me in the comments about conservation in zoos, and it doesn't not necessarily need to be in zoos. It can also be like a conservation project, because I was also looking a lot of in a lot of things that are related to conservation projects, in like reintroduction projects, I should call them, in the wild, that they do, people do, and organizations do. So I really would love to know more about that as well. Anyhow, I think it's time to talk about this build in particular over here, because it's going to be a bit different and it's going to be very tedious. Even though it's sped up like 10 times, I had a hard time building this little dome. It is not really a dome, it is an observation center. So my idea was also to have this Arctic wolf habitat over here, and don't you worry guys, it will look a lot more natural in the end. At this point in time, there's a whole bunch of ugly steel rig fences around here, or steel fences, that I definitely will exchange in the future with natural borders. I just didn't have the time to do it. Now, this observation center has two major purposes. The first one being an observation point for the aurora, Aurora Borealis, how is it even called? The Northern Lights, if you will. So you can really see them from over here. I checked this, if this provides you a good look onto it, and it does. So it's a little bit of a raised platform that has an open roof, where you can really enjoy it, and maybe it's not as chilly as it would be in an open space, because remember, we are in the Arctic, and it definitely it gets very chilly at times. So yeah, this is what I've done here, and it's basically already pretty much the final design here. So I do use this also. The second purpose of that one is the also observation platform for the Arctic wolf, so you can also be at a bit more of a raised position that then will give you the wonderful view into the wolf habitat. And again, I don't really care about the guest needs here, because the guest needs is something that is related to a zoo approach, while this is not a zoo approach. That's going to be a research station, and you do want the animals to be left alone as much as possible with the environment and how they live, to be able to get some good non-disturbed results, if you will. Something that is really important in terms of research, that the data is clean, or as clean as it can be. And if you have a lot of like viewing platform and viewing towers all over the place, that's going to be something that you don't want to have, because it definitely would spoil and blur out your results and your data. So definitely it's not gonna be a good choice to have this made for the people. So in fact, this whole area over here is meant to be solely focused on making it a good observation area for the basically researchers. That's what the scientists, that's what it is for. It's not necessarily for the tourists, but again, you want to have money, and that's why you would fly in some tourists. But again, you wouldn't fly in any random tourists. I will definitely, when I'm going to release this park soon, I will definitely limit the amount of guests. I guess, I don't know if that works for you guys. I think it will be set back to your default, but at least for me, I will definitely have the default set to like 500 maybe at max, just to make sure it looks realistic, that you just don't have too many people running around. It is just a very natural environment that you don't want to have too many tourists in. As I stressed out now multiple times, it's just very much focused on being a research area. So okay, enough talk about that. You can really see this dance here. Finally put some education boards in and just making the design final. But again, I'm super happy with how this thing turned out. I also like the color scheme of being a bit more into the modern approach. I could have gone, and here you can see, by the way, some quick images of how it looks with the aurora. I just was taking some screenshots, and I thought it was freaking nice to have it in for the time-lapse as well. So that's why I left it in. It's kind of a proof of concept. And then I do have this monorail over here, and you might be wondering, why the hell does this guy have the monorail here when he does not need any guests and stuff? Now, one thing I didn't like is how you would need to bring, like, it's not in particular I don't like this about the game, it's just I don't like this about the approach, because in real life you don't really have like a path leading to the different areas in your research environment. You would go there by like snow speeder, or you would go there by car if possible, or like by sledge or whatever, but you just don't want to go there by pathway. So what I did is I created, as you can see over here, I tried also to embed that as much as possible into the ice, and you will see later that this is even sitting on a nice shore, and that was potentially one of the single times where the ice really did work. But anyways, to finalize my point here, I wanted to create something that is somehow necessary to bring people from A to B, and in a way that it would potentially work on a research station, since there is no speeder involved, and it looked kind of crazy to sink these monorail tracks into the ground to make this thing, well, drive over ice, if you will. But it just didn't really work out for me as a sledge or a snowmobile or snow whatever. It just was something I didn't feel was right to do. So I decided in the end to make this monorail like a raised path. And then I was like, you know what, at this point I really need to go fully modern, because that's what you would do, go fully modern, and then you can have a monorail. It kind of would be also a very clever and smart thing to have to observe that area around. So you could really imagine also that the researchers are taking the scientists are taking the wonderful monorail to drive through that area and just observe the animals. And if you could imagine that they could be able to stop those cars midway through, just to stop there and research some of the animals from above without disturbing them at all. And I mean, I don't know, down to the fact that the monorail could also be potentially very quiet, and noise pollution is not too big of an issue. I think I was just fine with how this turned out. And yeah, I still wanted to have like a little bit of a village of these corrugated metal-ish looking containers, if you will. It's nothing else than just having that very subtle in here, and just provide a bit of a context to this area. And then I figured, okay, this one is too close to the actual little dock. This is like a little harbor, so we do have two main entrance points to that area. I still have to sink a a spawner in there. But yeah, we have this entrance point being a little dock, as more or less like a little harbor where the ships could potentially arrive. And then we do have the helipad on the other side of this pathing, or the pathway here, that kind of gives you the aerial, or the, the arrival through the air, I should say that way. But I just want to connect this here to make sure that this looks, like an area that would potentially work this way. And you will see the second part of this episode will be very much focused on making that whole area look a lot more like the Arctic, because at this point, or maybe I should just mention that quickly, I always build without snow on the land, because snow, as beautiful as it looks and as cool as it is that we have it, it also is a very hard thing to build on. You don't really see anything in terms of differences in height or subtle changes in terrain and all these kind of things. You don't really see contrasts too well. You don't see shadows and all these things that you also have to see if you go skiing. You always try to have some glasses that provide you with more of contrast to see all the little bumps and stuff, so you don't really fall over them because of being surprised on occasion by them, which tend to happen in the past potentially with me quite often. I'm not gonna lie. So I was very lucky to finally have a good skiing glasses that do give me, or like a visor I should even call it, that gave me a lot more information about depth and these kind of things. But yeah, nevertheless, we are in the nasty second part of today's episode. It's all about creating a realistic looking ice shore setup here, and I might just say that I did succeed with it. Holy heck, that was something. And I tell ya, if you will ever go and download this pack, do not at any time click on the ice shores, because they are all in one building and it's gonna melt your computer, the ice shores, the entire Arctic, and the freaking planet of Pluto, and the ice on planet Mars. It will melt it away in a second. That's gonna happen. And yeah, your computer will be burned down as well. Now, I'm not even kidding. I think this building contains over 55,000 pieces or whatever, because as you can see, this is how I created the ice shore blueprint, if you will. That's going to be the blueprint, and this is going to be copied around, as you potentially can guess already, a few times, to make sure that we have. And here's me explaining why I did this. Not only because it looks good, actually it was a good thing for several reasons. So reason number one being this ugly shoreline, which looks brownish at this point in time, because there is no like ice texture we can go underwater. Obviously snow does not work underwater, which is quite realistic, so yeah, I'm fine with it not being there. But in another way, you need something more bright, because in the Arctic you would not see actually the brownish stuff, and mostly because you don't see the shoreline at all, because there's ice in front of it, and that's what I'm doing over here. And again, I wanted to have, as I said, a bit more of a natural border for the wolves, but also for our friends, the polar bear, I should say. And this is how I created it. I created these shores, like the ice shores, in a way that they are not traversable from the water. So they can walk over them on top, but they cannot go into or out of the water via these things, which helped creating the water, like the water volume, as a somehow fenced off area. So as you can see over here, this is where the polar bear habitat will be. I even deleted some of the pieces to make sure that that the polar bear is not capable of escaping its habitat by climbing onto the shores and just using that as an exit point. So yeah, I was really going deep into that to create a bit of a better natural looking habitat. Again, as I was sailing, or like setting out on this journey here, I don't even know why I wanted to say sailing. Anyways, when I was setting out for this whole approach, I wanted to make sure that the whole map basically is the habitat for the polar bear, and that the polar bear can travel around the entire research station. I had to change my plans a little bit, just according to how the habitats work and how this whole calculation thing works. But at this point in time, I created habitat for the polar bear that is mostly working There are a few minor things that I should change, and by the way, this is where I clicked. Unfortunately, the shores and the game crashed. No major surprises here. So yeah, you can see I'm just flipping down and putting down some random ice things here and there, and shorelines or whatever, just to make it look a bit more varying, if you will, just not too similar at all times, because similarities are good at times, but it can provide like synergy effects. But in terms of making it look realistic, you want to vary with some of the things as much as you can. But you can tell already from the time lapse that it's starting to look like something. It's starting to look a lot more realistic and also interesting, because it kind of feels a bit more broken, and you know, it almost feels like as if this whole water area in the middle of that map could have been an entire ice block at one time. So yeah, but what you see here, I'm deleting some of the pieces in between to create this yeah, it's more like a little ditch here, but it just is there in position to make sure that the wolves cannot escape out of their habitat. So I could already have done and replaced this fencing with invisible fencing, or the null fence, but I just didn't. Now, yeah, talking of fencing, I was changing, as I said, the entire approach of the habitat for our lovely polar bears. So you will see in a bit that I'm just moving the entire building outside of these boundaries. So I was just moving around this whole build where they cannot escape, simply because I felt that this is needed, and just closing off some of the areas here with actual fences, so that the polar bear is also not able to escape via these areas. And then I just moved everything together, tried to figure it out, and I can already tell you there's still a little bit of work to do, but I managed to finally create a habitat that the polar bear is happy in, that the polar bear would even have been happy at the very first day of the Arctic DLC, even when it still needed 12,000 square meters, because at this point in time, I offered my polar bear 28,000 square meters of space. However, you can see already from that build that even my 28-ish thousand is just twice as big as it needs to be. So it's not like 20 times as big, it is just twice. So keep that in mind when you look at the area I focused on in this episode. This would have been only twice as big as it needs to be, and considering they get maybe 2 or 3 babies, it would maybe even just above what they would need, like if they grow up or whatever. So yeah, it would have been very, very crazy if they left it that way. I still do get it, and the idea about it is not really wrong. I think it's a fair point and a great point to have something that is really forcing you to think about the conservation aspect of that game. But yeah, well, the solution was maybe not the smartest, but anyways, it's fixed now, and I think people are happy. That's all what counts. But also I have to thank them, because this led me into creating this project. Otherwise I potentially wouldn't have done this, because there was no need for it if it would have been easy to integrate that into existing zoos, which it wasn't. So yeah, challenge accepted, and I guess I delivered on that, so that is totally fine. Now we're getting towards the end of this episode, so I just wanted to remind you of the fact that you can win a copy or a code for the Arctic DLC. What you have to do for it is basically give me a comment with your best fact about conservation in or around the topic of zoos. And I'm gonna pick the most interesting or most surprising fact and give away this wonderful DLC code for the Arctic DLC. So if you don't own it yet, you will be able to just play with polar bears, the Dall sheep, the reindeer, and the polar fox, or the polar wolf. I'm sorry, the wolf. It's a wolf. See you in the next one. Have a good time, and bye, guys. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you appreciate that. And now a special thanks also to all the people supporting me here on that channel, making this all possible. You can see that on the left hand side right now. And also if you want to see more of my stuff, make sure to click that card on the right top now. And if you want to stick around, make sure to hit that sub button, which is on the bottom right of the screen. If you want to see stuff on my social media, sneak peeks and stuff like that, it is on the bottom left on the screen. And yeah, I hope to see you again in the next episode. Until then, enjoy your time, guys, and bye.